Good morning, everyone. We're just about to call the meeting to order. Mr. President, delegates, it is my privilege to call this session of the 20th session of the Subcommittee on Program Budget and Administration of the Executive Committee of PAHO, Day 2, to order. As we begin, I would like to offer commendation to delegates on your participation yesterday's meeting, and we look forward to continued participation today as the concluding day for this meeting. We look forward to your candid discussions, and as we do this, I would like to now draw your attention to document number SBBA 23 to the attention of the subcommittee, and invite Dr. Miguel Berner, our legal counsel of the Pan-American Sanitary Bureau, to come to the head table to present on this item. Dr. Berner.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished members of the subcommittee, director, colleagues, good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to submit a summary of the interaction of PAHO with the non-state actors in 2025, guided by the framework of engagement with non-state actors, FENSA, because of its acronym in English, as adopted by member states in 2016. Throughout last year, PAHO continued to strengthen FENSA's implementation and improving the operational efficiency. The low-risk reviews were delegated to trained coordinators in departments and country offices. That is to say, in the entire country offices, that they have someone specifically trained for this, in keeping with the decision made by the director for decentralization of these FENSA review with a lower risk. And all of this was done under the continued supervision of the PAHO's focal point. Yes, Mr. President, it seems to me that Guyana raised a hand. Did they have a point to raise on this before I continue? Guyana is asking for the floor.
Thank you. Guyana, please proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I seem not to have any interpretation.
I don't know. English is coming through. Are you on the right channel? Are you on the English channel? Maybe the delegate is on the wrong channel. Is it okay now? Could you please let us know if you can hear the interpretation now? Guyana, could you let us know if you can hear the interpretation? Just raise your hand and let us know. Good and wonderful. Thank you.
Berner to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Guyana, for informing us of this. With your indulgence, I'll just restart so that we have the full presentation.
So as I was saying, it is a pleasure for me to submit the summary of PAHO's interaction with the non-state actors in 2025, guided by the framework of engagement with non-state actors of FENSA, in keeping with its English acronym, adopted by PAHO member states in 2016. In the course of last year, PAHO continued to strengthen the implementation of FENSA and improving the operational efficiency. The low-risk reviews were delegated to well-trained coordinators in different departments and country offices under the continuous supervision of PAHO's focal point. This approach allowed us to expedite the processes without compromising the consistency, the accountability, and the compliance with the framework. Likewise, we strengthened training activities, consolidating the understanding of FENSA as a policy that provides adequate cooperation with non-state actors in support to PAHO's mandate. Webinars were provided addressed to coordinators, general training FENSA sessions that were offered to all PAHO members, and also we begun the responsible use of tools on artificial intelligence. This started last year in order to support due diligence and risk assessment, with greatly facilitated and expedited our work, always with the validation of FENSA as a focal point before any final recommendation. In 2025, approximately 450 proposals were reviewed, cooperation proposals within the framework of FENSA, which represents an increase of 50% in comparison to the previous year. These interactions covered all the technical areas and country offices. As well as in previous years, around 97% of the proposals were approved after carefully assessing the benefits to health and to public health when dealing with the potential risks. In the very few cases where the interaction was not recommended, the main reason was the existence of ties with the tobacco industry in keeping with FENSA. Just to give you a few examples, some of the cooperation activities carried out in 2025 were the following. One, strengthening the capacity on health information systems and the support of digital transformation initiatives in the Americas in cooperation with Oslo University through its Health Information Systems program. The other cooperation with the Task Force for Global Health, which is a working group on global health in order to move forward with the elimination of communicable diseases. Another example is beefing up the preparedness before epidemics with the coalition CEPI, Coalition for Epidemics Preparedness, for its acronym in English, and last but not least, the approach on the resistance to antimicrobials with the GARD-DP Foundation, which is a global antibiotic research and development partnership. These cooperations show how FENSA allows PAHO to work efficiently with the non-state actors at the same time that it safeguards the independence, the integrity, and the reputation of the organization. Although FENSA is fully implemented throughout the whole of PAHO, the resources in order to take care of the growth in volume of reviews and the continuous training of coordinators continue to be limited. But it is necessary to continue optimizing internal processes. It is within this context that we continue working on this point with measures in order to improve the efficiency of reviews and continue optimizing internal processes. PAHO shall continue strengthening its mechanisms, keeping a robust and sound supervision in full compliance with FENSA. Mr. President, with this I conclude my comments. I am ready and willing to answer any question that member states wish to pose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Berner, for your presentation. The subcommittee is invited now to note the document and to provide comments. And so I now open the floor for your comments. Thank you. Okay, since there are no comments, okay, the chair recognizes Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brazil is very grateful for the presentation of this report on the engagement of non-state actors. Brazil was one of the main proponents of adopting the framework of engagement of non-state actors, and we support its implementation at WHO as well as PAHO. According to the report itself, FENSA is a policy that facilitates and expands engagement to the benefit of public health by protecting the organization as well from conflicts of interest or unjustified risks. We praised the Bureau for its efforts put forward to apply FENSA last year in nearly 450 cases, with an increase of 50% relative to 2024. Brazil also commends the fact that the vast majority of these engagements having been approved, that is, at a rate of 97%. In the current context, the different types of partnerships, including non-state actors, can become a worthwhile means of cooperation as well as mobilizing resources. To this effect, Brazil encourages PAHO to apply FENSA in a very nimble way, reflecting its nature of facilitation. Mr. President, we commend the efforts of PAHO to continue offering robust training on FENSA, both here at headquarters as well as in country offices, and to bolster the consistency with which it is applied. Given the need of a quicker assessment of the work that has been recognized in the report, Brazil commends PAHO for the search to make use of new technology in a responsible way, including artificial intelligence, even in these requests for engagement. Lastly, we'd like to stress that PAHO has many examples of positive collaboration. The delegation of Brazil has promoted these partnerships in a transparent and collaborative dialogue with this organization, with the understanding that PAHO benefits from a greater interaction with a broader host of partners. We recognize and appreciate the openness and the cooperative spirit with which our colleagues at PAHO receive such proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil. And we recognize your commendation to PAHO for its efforts and for your own country's collaborative efforts along with PAHO. The chair recognizes Grenada. Grenada, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. No institution operates in isolation, and PAHO has rightly recognized the importance of collaborating with non-state actors to support its mandate and extend its reach. In this regard, PAHO uses a rigorous due diligence process to guide its engagements with non-state actors in this regard, PAHO's use of a rigorous due diligence process to guide its engagement with non-state actors is both necessary and appropriate. Grenada wishes to commend PAHO for its transparency and thoroughness with which its engagements are undertaken, as they help to safeguard the organization's integrity while enabling effective partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Grenada, for your comments and for commending PAHO on its efforts of transparency. We do recognize your comments. I now give the floor to PAHO representative. You now have the floor. Thanks.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Brazil and Grenada, for your comments.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. So that was an error, a mix-up apparently. Okay. All right. So I return to Dr. Bernard to continue your
Thank
comments.
you,
Sorry.
Mr. President. So I'll just make brief remarks for Brazil. Agradecemos muito os comentários.
We're very grateful for your comments, Brazil. I remind you that Brazil and other members last year offered comments on artificial intelligence, and it was precisely based on this that the Secretariat concentrated on the development of a specific tool. And it took approximately 9 months last year, progressively, the beginning compared with assessments that were made by PAHO to have the certainty that the tool was yielding results that were compatible with the analysis that we conducted previously. We continued testing this, and the samples of the results. And the tool is essentially being used in order to collect information from data banks that are publicly available, and that helps a lot. And in our case, the tool raised our response time in up to 70%. So it was truly a great impact. Now, in connection with the training that was offered that Brazil mentioned, we have 445 people that signed up last year for the online FENSA course. 264 participated in a webinar with the legal department offered for the entire organization, and 174 people participated in a specific training that was offered to FENSA coordinators, and that explains the 50% increase that we had from one year to the other one.
Comments. I think you really put it in an accurate way in terms of the effort, I think, done by the secretaries to give a lot of transparency to this process and to strike that balance between safeguarding the organization's integrity and interest while allowing for or enabling specific partnerships that are aligned with the mandate of the organization. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berner. I now yield to Dr. Barbosa for his comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Brazil and Grenada, for your comments. As you can see, and Dr. Bournier highlighted this decentralization process that was implemented. It's very important for us because at the same time, it strengthens the capacity of the organization to perform the evaluation of all non-state actors. And when we are talking about the non-state actors, we are talking about the private sector, academic institutions, NGOs. So it's a very diverse group of actors that sometimes invite PAHO to a meeting or want to be invited by PAHO to participate in a meeting or want to develop a specific project with PAHO. So we have a diverse array of organizations that want to interact with the organization. So to have this process centralized as it was in the past, at the same time it was not providing the protection for the organization and was not enabling that the non-state actors could interact in a more productive way with the organization. So I think that's very important, this process that was initiated, and of course we are always trying to improve it, because I think that this is really the way that we want to be protected against any kind of conflict of interest, of relating with organizations that don't share the values or of the organization, but providing a more wide platform to collaborate and to bring their support to the work and to the priorities that our member states have approved for PAHO. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barbosa. Appreciate it. We now would like to inform the subcommittee that the discussions will be reflected in the final report. That being said, I now wish to draw our attention to item 3.3, non-state actors in official relations with the Pan American Health Organization. I would like to bring document SPBA 24 to the attention of the subcommittee. The subcommittee is invited to consider the application for admission into official relations with PAHO from 2 non-state actors and to examine the collaboration with 14 non-state actors in the context of the triennial review. I inform the plenary that this item will be discussed in 2 parts. In the first part, the Bureau will give a general explanation of the item. And in the second part, the members of the subcommittee and the member state participating as observer will attend a closed meeting to conduct the review. I now yield the floor to Dr. Marina Ferreira Texeria, the Interim Director of the Department of External Relations, Partnerships, and Resource Mobilization of the Pan-American Sanitary Bureau, to present the first part of the item. Dr. Texeria, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Buenos días, señor presidente.
Good morning, Mr. President, distinguished members of the subcommittee, members participating as observers, directors, colleagues. It is a privilege to bring to your attention Agenda Item 3.3 on non-state actors in official relations with PAHO. The official relations are based on a 3-year plan of cooperation with PAHO that draw up the agreement jointly between the non-state actor and our organization. The 3-year plan ought to be structured in keeping with the strategic plan of PAHO and cannot have any essentially lucrative or profit purpose. These non-state actors in official relations provide important contributions to PAHO and therefore contribute to making progress in public health in the Americas. Some of the activities carried out by these entities subject to renewal include: 1, complete implementation of a national program for the prevention of cervical cancer in Antigua and Barbuda, with a pilot program for detection treatment of HIV with over 1,500 women and their extension up to 3,000 women, aside the provision of a personalized care addressed to medical staff and employees of the Ministries of Health. 2, documents of all experiences with education and health ministries in Bahamas, Belize, and Colombia in creating school environments that are prone for healthy nutrition, education, and physical activity. 3, strengthening the capacity of civil society in order to move forward with legislative proposals on labeling, including warnings on the front of the package, with holding workshops in Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Panama, besides providing training to legislators. 4th, a report on the situation of water, sanitation, and hygiene in health establishments in 6 selected countries. And 5, the translation, publication, and dissemination of academic articles in Spanish in order to increase knowledge and information about Spanish-speaking publics. The Secretariat has continued to work in automating and optimizing the process to renew, to update, and report on progress, thus improving the platform for the collection of information of non-state actors in official relations, and with that, ensuring greater speed and efficiency in the process. As part of that process, the Secretariat has also activated a new space on PAHO's webpage, a portal showing non-state actors in official relations with PAHO. This information in the past was included in the background report and now is available in this portal, endowing it greater transparency. During that period, that report period, we've received 2 requests to join this list that comply with the criteria for official relations, the Institute for Clean Air and the Network of Parliamentarians for Global Health. During that same period, the subcommittee has scheduled to review 14 existent cooperations with non-state actors in official relations with PAHO. All of these subject to a 3-year review. It is recommended to continue with official relations with PAHO with the following 14 organizations: the U.S. Heart Association, the U.S. Public Health Association, American Heart Association, American Society for Microbiology, Basic Health International, Clinical and Laboratory Standards Institute, Coalition for America's Health, Global Oncology, Inter-American Association of Sanitary and Environmental Engineering, International Diabetes Federation, March of Dimes, Pan American Federation of Associations of Medical Schools, Pan American Federation of Nursing Professionals, United States Pharmacopoeia Convention, and World Association for Sexual Health. Last year, the subcommittee approved the review of 8 existing corporations subject to their 3-year review. In the case of the Clinical Standards and Laboratory Institute, we decided to postpone the discussion so that they would have sufficient time in order to prepare a more robust cooperation plan. In connection with the 2 candidates for this year, it is recommended to approve them and to welcome them. Their reviews were carried out and they were both satisfactory. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Testeria. I appreciate your report. Now, we would hold the closed meeting. I will invite member states, the legal counsel, Dr. Testeria, and the technical staff of the Bureau responsible for relations with each of the non-state actors under consideration to remain in the room. All right, so those that I call, you will remain in the room. I now invite the remaining participants to get a coffee, have some fruits, or whatever you find around, but please return only after 10 a.m. All right, after 10 a.m. Thank you. All right, so we get started in 1 minute. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience and for your cooperation. As we begin, the chair refer members to item 3.4, the appointment of one member to the Audit Committee of the Pan American Health Organization. I would like to bring document SPBA 25 to the attention of the subcommittee and invite the chair of the working group to report on the item. Chair of the working group to the audit committee. Oh, I was looking in the wrong direction. So, Chair, you now have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much. I will proceed to the reading of the document. Report of the working group charged with evaluating the candidates proposed for membership of the PAHO Audit Committee. Pursuant to Rule 6 of the Subcommittee on Program, Budget, and Administrations, SPBA Rules of Procedure, a working group was appointed to evaluate the list of candidates proposed by the Director of the Pan American Sanitary Bureau to fill the upcoming vacancy in the PAHO Audit Committee, effective June 2026. This working group, comprised by the delegates of Argentina, Brazil, and Canada, met on March 18, 2026 at 12:15 p.m. and elected the delegate of Brazil as chair. The working group carefully examined the terms of reference for the PAHO Audit Committee adopted at the 49th Directing Council in Resolution CD 49.R2, as well as a list of 4 proposed candidates and their respective curricula vitae. This supporting documentation was provided to the members of the working group. As a result of its deliberations during the aforementioned meeting, the working group agreed on the following process. To use the criteria for membership in Section 4 of the Terms of Reference for the PAHO Audit Committee as a basis for evaluating the candidates. B, to acknowledge 5 critical factors for ranking the candidates and established a scoring system assigning each factor 1 to 3 points based on its relative importance. The maximum score that a candidate could obtain was of 10 points. C, it used a decision matrix so that this would enable each member of the working group to fill in this separately and to rank each candidate. The members of the working group compared the results of their individual evaluations and reached the following decision after ranking the candidates in keeping with the score: to recommend unanimously Mr. Edmund de Grove as the top candidate for nomination to the PAHO Audit Committee, and signed by the delegates of Brazil, Canada, and Argentina. That is a report, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. I will now open the floor of the plenary for discussion. There appears to be So there appears to be no interventions. So I now request of Dr. Barbosa to offer some comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, I just want to thank Argentina, Brazil, and Canada. I think that they reviewed very carefully. We had the 4 strong candidates, and of course that the a thorough review that this group performed is recommending a very strong candidate that will be presented as the recommended candidate to replace one vacant position at the Audit Committee of the Pan American Health Organization. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I believe we can now take a full break, but be back in 20 minutes. Okay. So the meeting is now on break for 20 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're ready to begin. Delegates, as we begin this session, I refer you to item number 4.6, report on the Master Capital Investment Fund and on the Master Capital Investment Plan implementation. I would like to bring document SPBA 2011 to the attention of the subcommittee and invite Mrs. Christian Beck, Director of Administration of the Pan American Sanitary Bureau, to come to the head table and present this item. Mrs. Beck, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Good morning to members of the subcommittee, director, and colleagues. This report provides member states with an update on the financial position and implementation of the Master Capital Investment Fund, or MCIF, as of 31 December 2025. The MCIF continues to serve as the organization's primary mechanism for financing long-term capital investments structured across 5 sub-funds covering real estate maintenance and improvements, information technology, revolving strategic real estate, vehicle replacement, and human resources modernization. As shown in Table 1 of the report titled Summary of Fund Balance, as of 31 December 2025, the total balance of the MCIF stood at $27.9 million compared to $18 million at the end of 2024, reflecting real estate revenue generated in 2025 from the sale of the Virginia Avenue building. As shown in the third column titled Expenses, total capital implementation during 2025 amounted to $13.34 million. The detail of MCIF implementation in 2025 is shown in Table 2 of the report as follows. The Real Estate Maintenance and Improvement Sub-Fund total of $13.1 million was used for advancing Phase 2 of PAHO's headquarters renovation and for targeted infrastructure upgrades in country offices. For the Information Technology Sub-Fund, $164,000 was invested for digital system modernization. Next, we have the Vehicle Replacement Sub-Fund, which included the replacement of 1 vehicle in 1 country office during 2025. And in the Human Resources Strategy Sub-Fund, investments were made to complete the upgrades to the HR system architecture, which uses Workday. This slide shows progress of the headquarters renovation, including ongoing structural and safety improvements to the garage, you can see in the top 2 photos, and below, one of the renovated floors, all of which underwent replacement of the original HVAC systems, lighting upgrades, and reconfiguration of the layout for more efficient space utilization. This slide presents an example of upgrades to a PAHO country office location. In Guyana, the organization transitioned to new premises to ensure that the workplace met current operational, safety, and infrastructure standards. The photo on the right shows the new office. Decisions to repair or relocate country offices focused on enhancing staff safety, security, and operational efficiency. All works were planned and implemented carefully, in line with the organization's broader financial environment. As can be seen in Table 3 of the document, net revenue recognized in 2025 from the sale of PAHO's building located at 2121 Virginia Avenue, which totaled $23.1 million, was placed in the revolving strategic real estate sub-fund, strengthening the MCIF's overall position. A portion of the proceeds held within this sub-fund will be strategically reallocated to replenish other MCIF sub-funds, taking into account current priorities and aligned with the 2026-27 biennium budget. I kindly ask the subcommittee to take note of this report. With this, I conclude my remarks. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Beck. The subcommittee now is invited to take note of this document and to provide any comments that you wish to make at this time. Okay. The chair recognizes Brazil. Brazil, you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brazil is grateful for the detailed report on the Master Capital Investment Fund and the implementation of the Master Plan of Capital Investment. We would like to congratulate the Director for concluding the process of the sale of the Virginia Avenue location. And we recognize that this wasn't only the strategic right thing to do, but also the swiftness with which that was done. We would like to ask what is the forecast for conclusion of the second phase of the remodeling of the main building, especially floors 3 and 6 of this building? Furthermore, we would like to know if the rental of rooms outside of this building is to be permanent, or will it be wrapped up once the remodeling job is done? Thank you.
Thank you, Brazil, for that question. Just before we hand over to Mrs. Beck, I want to ask if there are any other questions so she can treat with all of it in her response. If there are no other questions or comments, I now offer the floor to Mrs. Beck for her response. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you, Brazil, for your questions and comments. Phase 2 of the renovation of floors 3 through 7 will be completed by the end of this month, end of March. Staff are already moving in as we speak. And regarding your second question, yes, we've been renting a floor and a half at the Watergate building while renovations have been underway. The lease on the Watergate expires the end of this year, December 31st. Over the course of 2025, we'll have a phased approach to moving staff from the Watergate into this building. All staff will fit in this building after the renovations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Beck. I now ask Dr. Barbosa if he has any comments. You can make them now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to add about on the comments that Ms. Beck has already made, we have new delegates here, so I think that is just to put a little bit in context. But a very important part of the renovation of this building was related to the fact that it's a marvelous building, an iconic building, but the HVAC system was almost 6 years old. So it was from the inauguration of this building. So we had to perform this renovation in order to have equipment that could function and keep the rooms in a proper temperature to the staff and also the delegates when they come to the meetings. And also some security aspects, as Mrs. Beck showed in the garage, we had some serious problems that we had to take care and to guarantee that the building is safe. And also that the renovation of the floors that will be completed by the end of April, if everything goes well, will allow us, combined with the positions that we are closing due to the shared services hub, will allow us for the first time in some decades to fit only in this building. So we don't need to rent another space. In the past, we rented in the OAS building. Now we are renting the Watergate building, and also when we had the Virginia Avenue building, that is a building that requires a lot of expenditure with the maintenance of the building. So I think that we will, at the same time, to have a better environment here in Parro with the renovation, more safer environment, and at the same time to save the expenditure that we have had with rental of external space. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Barbosa. I now wish to inform the subcommittee that the discussions would be reflected in the final report. I now refer us to item 4.7, report on the charge assessed on the procurement of public health supplies for member states. I would like to therefore bring document SPBA 2012 to the subcommittee's attention and invite Mr. Santonio Cognero, Executive Manager of the Regional Revolving Fund of the Pan American Sanitary Bureau, to come to the head table and present on the item. And so he's here. So I now give Mr. Cornejo the floor to present.
Thank you, Mr. Presidente, muchas gracias.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Distinguished members, observers of the SPB, director, colleagues, thank you very much for providing me this opportunity to submit the report on the charge assessed on the procurement of public health supplies for member states through the revolving fund for access to vaccines and the strategic fund. As you will recall, the revolving funds of PAHO were established by member states over 40 years ago with the main principle of self-sustainability. Both funds cannot receive the funding of the assessed contributions for their operations, and they're only funded with the charges applied to procurement. The current report summarizes the recent report on these charges and its impact on the sustainability of these funds. The charge assessed on the procurement of public health supplies through the regional revolving funds has evolved through various resolutions of the governing bodies of PAHO. At the last one, and that is in 2020, the Directing Council adopted Resolution CD52.R4, which adjusted the structure of these charges by establishing that the administrative component from 125% to 175% and a compensating decrease in the capital account component in 2.5%. The Council maintained the total charge in 4.25. This table shows the status of the administrative component, that is to say 1.75, during the biennium of 24-25 that is included in your report. As you can see, the initial balance was 53.4 million, and the approved budget of 44.8, we used 32.4, and that leaves a remaining balance of 21.4 million. Also, through the procurement, we collected 27.8 million. This slide shows in detail the balance between resources collected through this charge and the execution of the financing in 2024 to 2025, and those were the figures that you saw on the previous table. Here we see a gap of 4.6 million between what was collected and what was spent. The period for 26 to 27 is not part of the scope of this report, and we're simply showing projections in order to provide a context. If we project the revenue similar for 26 and 27 of around $1 billion, together with the budgetary needs, the gap could reach up to 10 million. So this situation is not new. The document CD 61.16 that was submitted to the SPBA in 2024 has already reported a gap of 3.3 million in 2023. Also, it is important to recall that in previous years, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw surpluses that were recorded due to the high volume of procurement through PAHO funds. Christos yesterday submitted the evolution in the use of the revolving funds by showing that large increase, and those previous years have triggered the balances that have accumulated. So these balances have enabled us to mitigate the current deficit. I would like to reiterate that we have not used the assessed contributions in order to cover the gaps or the operations of the funds. And also, there is no immediate risk posed for the financial sustainability of the funds during this biennium. However, these funds are finite. Therefore, it is important to act on a timely basis in order to avoid challenges in the upcoming biennia. And now let me switch to English.
I would like to highlight some of the achievements obtained through these operations of the revolving funds. One of the achievements was the expansion of our portfolio to respond to member states' needs and demands. Let me give you some examples. In 2024, upon the request of Mercosur member states, and later on by other member states, they requested that the revolving funds work on high-price, high-cost medicines and rare diseases. This is a critical challenge for our member states, given the fiscal and budgetary impact of some of these treatments and the need to utilize some of these technologies. In 2017, we tried to engage through the strategic fund in these areas, but we were unsuccessful. So this time, we will follow a different approach with a very heavy engagement in our technical areas to identify needs, our engagement with member states to identify demands and challenges, and also to work with manufacturers. What we have seen is a different outcome. We already have agreements with 5 products and 11 presentations of these high-price, high-cost medicines. We see reductions from 40 to 90% in prices compared to the prices shared by the member states for those specific medicines. And we already have countries placing orders for some of these products. We also are going to continue to introduce other treatments, as well as our work with pediatric cancer, where we have more than 30 treatments. The second one, I will talk a little bit about cold chain. In the past, our support on cold chain was with standard products, ad hoc. We made an agreement for each individual transaction, and therefore it was inefficient and with low visibility. Thanks to a voluntary contribution from Canada, we were able to go deeper in our engagement in cold chain, research the markets, identify new opportunities to bring new technologies, more efficient technologies, and not only work. Now, we are not only working on vaccines, which is traditional where cold chain is utilized, but making the link with oncology and other areas that need also cold chain. And we are working with Ecuador in advancing this work. Also, we are working in finalizing a portfolio that will allow us, through our portal and utilizing artificial intelligence support, to improve the decision-making and identification of technologies that will be needed. Medical devices is another area where we scale up during the COVID-19 pandemic, and during this biennium we expanded even greater. I won't be able to mention all the different devices, but it goes from incubators to video coloscopes, thermocoagulators, coloscopes and thermocoagulators, ambulances, oxygen, and many others. Now, the inclusion of these medical devices, what it gave us was the ability, for example, when member states came with projects that were financed by the World Bank and the IDB that had a large number of procurement, around $40 to $50 million of procurement of devices, to respond to their needs. Also, it allowed us to provide a comprehensive approach to support PAHO's flagship initiatives, like better care for NCDs in primary health care, the elimination initiative, and primary health care strengthening, and going beyond medicines and drugs and include devices. Finally, I would like to talk about telehealth technologies. We also advance by introducing 6 different pieces of equipment for telehealth, which include maternal and fetal monitors, portable ultrasound, X-ray, and a case that we developed. Now, these technologies could be game changers to increase access to health services in unserved, remote, and how-to-reach populations. Now, all of these products share one common characteristic if we compare to what has been traditionally the work of the revolving funds, which is vaccines. If we think about vaccines, they have very limited number of producers, the same producers. The differentiation within a vaccine is limited, perhaps 1 dose or 10 dose presentation, and at country level centralized. All the products that I just mentioned first require to engage with many different suppliers. In fact, in 1 year, we increased our engagement with suppliers by 20% to try to advance these technologies. Also at country level, they are decentralized. They have different units that need these technologies, different levels within countries, and it requires a different engagement from us. And then the evaluation, looking at the specifications of the product, also there is a wide range. Therefore, this differentiation implies that the level of effort of the revolving funds and our technical teams and evaluations are much greater than the model that we have been using. Another achievement has been the growth in our operations. In this biennium, we have over 4,500 shipments to countries, which translated in procurement of around $1.7 billion for 42 countries and territories. We mainly work with Ministry of Health, but we have been also working with our ministries. And for the first time, we have worked at subnational level. We procure medicines for the province of Mendoza in Argentina, and also we're working with the municipality of Bogota. If we compare 2025 with 2023, the last years of each biennium, the increase in the utilization of the funds, it was by 20% by member states. Of course, what we are interested in people impacted, but it's impossible to track the products once they reach the countries. But we projected, triangulating coverage data and the products that we supply, that around 135 people were protected through vaccines that were accessed through the revolving funds. 30 million people were covered with treatment, diagnosis, or vector control supplies that acquired through the revolving funds. Finally, I would like to talk a little bit about the improvements in efficiency and transparency of our operations. In 2023, we launched the Member State Portal just to gather the demand from Member States. Now, over the biennium, we transformed this portal by adding new modules to provide Member States real-time financial information and procurement status. Monica yesterday mentioned this progress when was presenting PAHO Forward. For those that don't know how the revolving fund works, let me just highlight how it was before we had this portal. If a member state wanted to know how much they had in their account to make procurement, they would have to send a message to our country office to our team either work with the finance team, and then all that information going back to member states. Today, the member states can access that data through a portal that is security-based. Each member state has its own passwords and have real-time data. We are also going to introduce new modules that will automatize many of the processes of the procurement that today are manual, and that will help us to achieve greater efficiencies. The second component is the charge of 2.5 contribution to the capitalization account. This account enables us to provide credit line to member states, allowing to access supplies without prepayment if they cannot prepay, which avoids delays in accessing the supplies when they're needed, and of course, eliminating any financial risk to the organization because those transactions are covered by the capital account. Currently in the capital account, we have $352 million, $311 million for the revolving fund, $40 million for the strategic fund. During the biennium, approximately the credit line allowed the procurement of $700 million, which means basically $300 million approximately utilization per year, which is a great utilization, but we still see a lot of potential to increase as we would like to turn over the utilization and being utilized for more than 1 year. Sorry. I would like to, in 2024, the Directing Council approved flexibilities to the utilization of this credit line. One flexibility allows us to use the credit line to reserve supplies in advance for a rapid response to outbreaks. We utilized it in 2025. We secured 2.5 million doses of yellow fever vaccine during when we saw the increment in cases and also supply shortage. What we wanted to prevent is that the supplier divert those doses to other regions. Similarly, when we saw the increment in cases of measles, we reserved 5 million doses of measles vaccine, which then, when a country came with an additional request, we were able to respond right away. Now, these actions were implemented within the approved financial limits of the resolution that allows only use 15% of the capital account and did not generate any losses as member states utilized those vaccines and paid for those doses. Again, perhaps as we have new members, just to explain, in the past we couldn't do this because the only way we could utilize the credit line, we needed to have each individual member to ask for the credit line in advance, then consolidate all those requests, and then be able to reserve the doses, which that will take a long time and would not allow us to do these actions that we took with measles and yellow fever. This was a lesson of Mpox, which, yes, the Directing Council approved an individual approach to do that in Mpox. And we are seeing already the benefit, not only with Mpox, but now with measles and yellow fever response. The second flexibility that was also approved in 2024 allow us to waive the 2.5 charge for products from regional manufacturers on a case-by-case basis to incentivize their utilization. In 2025, we had significant increase in the participation of regional manufacturers, as presented by the director in his opening remarks. So we utilized this flexibility in 2025, and this utilization generated approximately $1.2 million in savings for member states that utilize products from regional manufacturers because they didn't have to pay this additional 2.5% cost. We expect that this utilization will expand and as we continue to advance our agenda on regional manufacturing. In closing, the regional revolving funds are a unique mechanism in the world, demonstrated by their achievements, and also that other regions are now trying to create similar mechanisms. I would like to reiterate the importance of ensuring the long-term sustainability of the revolving funds as we have been doing so far. As highlighted in the report, the operations remain fully self-financed, and PAHO's assessed contributions do not finance these activities. Now we are expanding our portfolio, we are modernizing the funds to respond to member states' evolving needs, including entering into more complex technologies that require greater level of capacity. While we continue improving efficiency and increasing utilization, these measures under the current fee structure will not be sufficient to close the current gap that is being financed with the carryover balances. Although financial constraints are not expected before 2028, we are acting proactively to ensure sustainability and avoid future uncertainties. In this context, we are preparing a proposal for the Executive Committee that will, first and foremost, maintain the total fair service fee at 4.25. but we're going to propose to adjust the distribution between the operational component and the capitalization account. But by maintaining the overall fee level at 4.25, PAHO's revolving fund will continue to offer the lowest cost among global and regional pool procurement mechanisms, reinforcing their value for money while responding to both current and emerging member states' needs. The subcommittee is invited to take note of this report and provide any comments. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. So there you have it, the report on the charge, on the assessed procurement of public health supplies for member states. And so I now invite members to make your contribution or ask questions. The chair recognizes Canada. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Canada thanks the Secretariat for this report. We continue to recognize the critical importance of PAHO's procurement activities in improving the health of the peoples of the Americas and commend achievements made over the past year, including protecting millions in the region through vaccine delivery. While we recognize the deliberate efforts to expand and strengthen the scope of these funds in response to member states' evolving needs, it is of the utmost importance for Canada that the sustainability of these funds remains protected. In this regard, we are concerned to note the increased costs resulted in a $4.6 million deficit in 2024-2025, and we're also troubled to learn that as of March 11, arrears of unpaid invoices totaled $14.3 million. Both of these financial realities are not tenable in the long term and represent financial risks to these funds. We appreciate that the Secretariat has implemented efficiency measures and wonder whether there may also be a need to reassess scope of work if these trends continue. On this, we look forward to reviewing the proposal that will be presented to the Executive Committee in June. Thank you.
Canada, we thank you for your intervention and your questions and observations. We now invite Panama to make its intervention.
Gracias, señor. Thank you, Mr. President. The delegation of Panama welcomes the submission of this report, and we acknowledge the efforts aimed at strengthening the sustainability and efficiency of regional mechanisms for the procurement of public health supplies, which are essential in order to guarantee timely access to essential goods for our populations. We believe that it is relevant to continue delving into the financial impact of the charge, particularly in countries with high fiscal limitations, in order to ensure that the measures will continue favoring equitable access to essential supplies. Likewise, we encourage to continue exploring mechanisms that, to the extent of possible, we reflect the different economic realities of member states, maintaining the principle of equity as the guiding principle. Likewise, we value the importance of this charge contributing to improving the operational efficiency, and therefore we urge to continue sharing information on the benefits and improvements reached. Finally, Panama underscores the importance of keeping solid accountability mechanisms and an open and continuous dialogue with member states in connection with the implementation and possible adjustments to the charge, and reiterate the willingness to continue working in a constructive manner with the organization and all the other member states with a view to consolidating procurement mechanisms that will be sustainable, transparent, and equitable.
All right, thank you so much, Panama. I now give the floor to Ecuador.
Señor Presidente.
Mr. President, Ecuador expresses its gratitude for the presentation of this document on the charge assessed on the procurement of public health supplies for member states. And we also acknowledge the importance of the regional revolving funds as an efficient and solidary mechanism that enables member states to have timely and equitable access to vaccines and medicines and other strategic health technologies. These mechanisms have contributed to strengthening national immunization programs, improve the modernization of the demand, and ensure access to essential supplies for prevention prevention, control, and response when dealing with health emergencies. Let us recall that public health threats know no borders, and it is essential for the region to be ready to deal with these situations. Likewise, we value actions aimed at promoting innovation, regional production, and strengthening of the supply chain for all countries. Ecuador agrees with the charge of 4.25 service fees for procurement done through the revolving funds, acknowledging that this mechanism has enabled us to keep technical support, logistic operations, and timely access to essential supplies for public health. In the country, the Ministry of Public Health has strengthened national immunizations programs through the use of these joint procurement mechanisms, which has enabled us to ensure the supply of vaccines of the regular schedule and improve the capacity to respond when dealing with health emergencies and outbreaks. In 2025, Ecuador benefited from technical and financial cooperation for the response to yellow fever outbreaks in the Amazon region and whooping cough in different territories in the country. In addition to that, we had logistic and technical support in order to hold workshops aimed at local health teams on issues of microplanning, strengthening on immunizations, and timely preparedness when dealing with outbreaks, which has significantly contributed to strengthening technical capacities and operational capabilities in the national health system. Ecuador believes that it is important to continue strengthening the financial sustainability of regional revolving funds, promoting mechanisms to ensure their stability and their operational capacity. Likewise, we stress the importance of maintaining technical support for countries in order to improve the planning of the demand, managing the supply chain, and the response when dealing with health emergencies. Ecuador takes note of the report submitted, and we acknowledge the importance of applying this to sustain operations and technical cooperation as it is linked to the regional revolving funds and the importance in becoming acquainted with the proposal before the Executive Committee in June. The country expresses its willingness to continue supporting the initiatives that will strengthen these mechanisms that will contribute to ensure equitable access of strategic supplies and public health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ecuador. Thank you, Ecuador. We appreciate your comments and your support. We now turn our attention to Brazil. Brazil, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brazil is grateful for the presentation of the report, and we appreciate particularly transparency in the presentation of the figures regarding the use of those resources that come from the charge, as well as the breakdown of investments carried out in 24-25. The contribution of the regional revolving fund for the health of the Americas can't be called into question. As we see in this report over the last biennium, these mechanisms made it possible for us to protect 135 million people with vaccines and to also treat 35 million people with treatment, diagnostics, and other essential inputs. The funds are strategic instruments for us to ensure equitable access to health technologies, and on that, Brazil welcomes the progress made, especially the expansion of the portfolio for complex technologies such as high cost treatment for cancer and other rare diseases, as has said, that is requested over and over by member states. We also recognize the key role played by these funds in offering technical assistance, strengthening regulatory capacity, the planning of immunization programs, as well as forecasting vaccines and medicines that will be needed. We congratulate PAHO and for the expansion of this portal for member states with new measures, or modules rather, and financial instruments. Brazil attributes an enormous importance to these initiatives to promote regional production and also the strengthening of a response capacity vis-à-vis emergencies. Mr. President, Brazil took note of the financial challenges pointed out in the report, and within that context, we would like to know, how does the Secretariat assess the outlook for financial sustainability of the funds in the midterm, given the mismatch that we see between revenues and expenditures, and what measures are being considered to ensure their sustainability, preserving at the same time their affordability to member states. Thank you.
Well done, Brazil. Thank you so much. So we will respond to your question. We now turn our attention to Grenada. Grenada, you now have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Grenada wishes to commend PAHO on the operations of the revolving fund and for the consistent support provided to member states in the procurement of vital health commodities. Grenada procures all of its vaccines and related supplies through the PAHO revolving fund. We are particularly satisfied with the quality, safety, and reliability of the products received through this mechanism. The fund has been instrumental in strengthening our national immunization program and ensuring timely access to essential supplies. At the same time, we wish to highlight a particular challenge faced by small island developing states in our region. The high cost of freight continues to limit effective access to products procured through the revolving fund and in some cases reduces the full benefits of pooled procurement. We believe this issue merits further attention and we encourage the exploration of practical solutions to address freight-related constraints so that small island states can fully and equitably benefit from the revolving fund. Thank you.
Grenada, thank you. Your comments noted. We now turn our attention to Argentina. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for the report that you have given us. Argentina understands that it, has benefited from these funds, and we clearly understand that vaccines not only prevent a disease, but they reduce mortality and halt the spread of disease across borders, and that is of the utmost importance. Also, many of these medicines prevent subsequent discapacities, and that's something, disabilities, and that's something our country also appreciates. Now, there's something we would like to say, that is the openness that this organization has had to sit around the table and to discuss and find solutions. As Mr. Cornejo rightfully said, in 2024, that was a year in which we sat down to take a look at what the best solution for countries could be through these funds, and we could say 2 years later that that worked, and thanks to this openness, we were able to be a part of the solution through this process of talking together. Now, costs still pose challenges we have to overcome, but it's with everyone's participation, pulling together, putting our heads together, that is how we will find the best and most successful solution over time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Argentina. We do appreciate your comments and observations. Now, I believe we do not have any other from member states. I will now ask Mr. Cornejo to respond. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President, and thank you very much to Canada, Panama, Ecuador, Brazil, Grenada, and Argentina for the interventions, the support and acknowledgement of the achievements and the progress that we have done, not only in our portfolio support to our member states, but also in the activities to improve efficiency and transparency in our operations. Would go to answer some of the specific comments. For Canada, again, thank you very much for the support that we have been receiving. Regarding the areas where we are focusing or expanding our operations, we're being very selective. And here there are two key drivers that they are helping us to prioritize. One is the priorities that were identified by member states. In the resolution of 2024, they identify priorities for us to support or to engage, or new priorities like high price, high cost medicines, like the engagement in terms of the ability to respond to outbreaks, and for example, also the cost of logistics, and I will come back to that, to the concern of Grenada. So we're focusing on the priorities identified by member states. The second is also we're focusing on the products, the technologies where we see the greatest impact that we could have. We do not believe that every single product that is beneficial for the revolving funds to support or engage. So we're being selective in how we respond and to engage in those that we have the greatest impacts, and those are the ones that we are developing. And again, linked to the question from Brazil, so what are we looking? What we are assessing is we believe that still keeping the fee, the total fee, at 4.25%, so we are not going to increase the cost to member states. But if we adjust the two components, we will generate enough resources to ensure the sustainability while addressing these new areas, because we also project more use of the funds, and also we project that which is part of the proposal that we're going to bring, efficiencies in the way we work. Today is very verticalized, the approach. There is more transaction cost. So we believe that with these proposals, we will be more efficient, and also we will be able to, therefore, ensure that sustainability. Thank you to also Panama and para Panama y Argentina.
I thank Panama and Argentina regarding the comments made, certainly in line with our working together and the openness that we've shown to that effect. Of course, it's member states that define our priorities, and we do need to work with you to build these solutions. Now, Ecuador, of course, we are going to share that proposal with you ahead of time. We will discuss it. I want to reiterate, there is not going to be a rise in the total cost, but rather a shuffling, redistribution of those costs. And we are working with the Inter-American Bank to find financing mechanisms.
To answer to the concern of Grenada, which is a great concern, and I apologize I didn't talk about. We have done many things during the biennium, but one of the elements that we have started was to assess exactly a solution, a tailored solution for the Caribbean, for small island states, on how we can reduce the transaction cost of logistics. Today, it is true, many, particularly small territories, they are paying today more on logistics than the actual cost of the goods that they're buying. So we are working with one of the member states in the Caribbean to see if there is an opportunity to centralize and to have like a hub where we can create some scale that will allow us to reduce that logistic cost and only have it by country at the last mile rather than today that is coming from the manufacturer. So we hope we can generate that solution very soon, but it is one of our top priorities because we know and we understand the heavy burden that it has, particularly in small island states. I believe I answered all the questions, and I apologize if I missed one, and I will be happy to provide any additional information. Thank you. And again, thank you very much for your support, which is also materialized with every transaction that you do, every procurement that you do, that not only benefits you, but it benefits the whole region as we are able to scale our engagement. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Cornejo. I now ask Dr. Barbosa if he has any comments that you wish to make, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Agradezco todas las.
I thank all the member states for the comments that they have made and their suggestions as well. Just to add some information, mindful of the fact that some people are here for the first time. PAHO's funds were created with the understanding that they should be self-sustainable. The fund itself or themselves should generate the resources for their operation. That means we do not use funds from the assessed contributions by member states. Those assessed contributions don't feed into these funds. Now, they have been quite efficient. Just by way of comparison, UNICEF, which makes the purchases on behalf of Gavi, far more than PAHOS, should be therefore more efficient. UNICEF does charge a administrative cost between 3 and 4.5% to recover its administrative cost. 3.5 to 4.5. Now, PAHO charges 4.25%, but only 1.75% for the recovery of administrative costs. The other 2.5% charged are for the credit line that remains at the disposal of member states for when they need money in advance, when they need to purchase a product, and so they can access this credit line. When they receive the medication or the vaccine, then they replenish the fund. 1.75% is what we charge by way of administrative costs. Now, as Santiago has said, member states submitted new requests for the fund, which calls for an increase in our capacity, because when we work only with vaccines are simpler, so to speak, because we only work with pre-qualified producers. So for each vaccine, we might have 2 or 3 producers, not too many. But when member states tell us we need to buy telemedicine equipment, and Guatemala did buy 1,400 telemedicine equipment for their distance medicine. There aren't pre-qualified providers. We have to go through the process of contacting the different providers and to assess their products, software, hardware, and so forth. The same thing for high-cost medications, for which, well, there are some that only have 1 producer, and others for which there might be 4 or 5 different biosimilars available by other producers. So that means we have to have biomedical engineers that we hire to conduct these assessments, to ascertain, or in the spirit of always achieving the procuring the safest and the highest quality product at the most affordable cost. Now, also, as said by Santiago, the intention of the fund is to not be the supplier of all health technologies and medicines that countries need, because there are medicines for which there is a broad supply with much competition on the market. And so that's something that each member state decides whether they're going to procure those items on the private market. But we focus on those strategic products such as vaccines and medicines for malaria, tuberculosis, HIV, medicines, starting with Ecuador, for example, and other countries. The access to oncological medicine for children with cancer. This is a growing portfolio that is in line with the priorities set by member states. We speak of the elimination of cervical cancer, also the equipment for treating lesions. So we're always seeking out the right mix in the portfolio, aligning priorities set by member states with regional priorities and health technologies, in which by making a regional purchase, we can achieve the best value. So for increasing this portfolio, again, that fee is 1.75%, which has proven effective. Where necessary, to conduct a review, and that which we propose is that we keep it at the limit of 4.25% administrative cost, striking that might be a better balance, or we could strike a better balance between recovering administrative cost and that portion that goes to the credit line. Someone might say, well, isn't that going to reduce the credit line funds available? Well, we're working with Santiago, as he has said. And in May, this is going to be presented to the member states, a partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank to offer a financial facility for up to $1 billion to reduce the exposure of the organization offering the member states access to that line of credit without interest. It's not a loan per se, but after a given period of time. That's what the agreement is going to focus on. If the country does not pay back that amount, then it would become a low-interest loan. We manage a credit line that's always at $300 and some million. That always entails a certain risk, because if a country makes use of a line of credit and does not reimburse that which it has taken, that means we're going to run into difficulties with audits with member states and also the sustainability of the fund itself. So we're going to come up with a proposal that broadens the Secretariat's ability to continue offering this very important contribution to member countries for them to have access to medicines and technologies, at the same time broaden the accessibility of this fund. By law, some countries can't pay in advance, and so they have to first receive the product, be it a vaccine or any other, and then pay for it. That's what a credit line is for. Or in the case of an emergency, the Mpox outbreak, for example, the vaccine producer only allowed for there to be a set-aside of a certain number of doses requested by country if the country was capable of proving that it would ultimately pay for those vaccines, be able to pay for those vaccines. So I am grateful for all the contributions and questions asked here. We are indeed working on a proposal that we will be sharing with member states so that we can then prepare and send that to the Executive Committee. That is a concrete proposal.
Was concerned also as the delegate of Grenada, and as Santiago mentioned, we are discussing how we can reduce the cost of freight and logistics for the Caribbean countries. It does not make sense to pay more for the transportation than the vaccine or the goods. So as Santiago mentioned, we are working on a proposal to establish a hub in the Caribbean that will reduce the cost of deployment of the vaccines. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barbosa, for that, I would say, comprehensive response and enlightenment. We now inform that the discussions would form part of the final report. And so this brings us to where we are, which should be lunch, but I want to take a quick pause. Just give me a second. All right. So I have a proposal for you. In the spirit of democracy, I'm proposing this. If you do not agree, then we have to take another form of governance. So as for now, it's democracy. So we can get an early finish to today's activities if you permit us to consider item 5.4 5.1 and 5.2 now. These are the two last and final items on the agenda. Well, we also have other matters that might arise, and which I do not believe will take us long, and just the closing. So if we can consider these items now, it might take us just around 1 o'clock, thereabout, we might be able to wrap up around that time. So I need your consent to amend so that we take break after we conclude all of these items. So do I have your agreement? Yeah, I take it that everybody agrees. All right, so thank you very much. All right, so we move to item 5.2. Item 5.2. PAHO's forward on the Shared Services Initiative. Do I go up to the back?
No.
I can stay.
No. This is an item, agenda item. You stay here. It's a regular item.
Shared Services. I would like to bring your attention to SPBA 20, INF 2, to the attention of the subcommittee, and invite Mr. Dean Cambliss, Director of Shared Services Initiative of the Pan American Sanitary Bureau, to come to the head table and present this item. Mr. Chambliss.
Good morning. It is still morning. Mr. President, Director, distinguished members of the subcommittee, and colleagues. I will provide a brief introduction. I have only one slide, so it's mostly a verbal introduction to Agenda Item 5.2 regarding the PAHO Forward Shared Services Initiative. This document is presented for the subcommittee's information. In keeping with the PAHO Forward 3.0 Plan of Action, the SSI project aims to strengthen administrative efficiency through modernization and outsourcing to a lower-cost location. The expected result is the establishment of a shared services hub that will be operational in 2026. As our director has reminded us, the SSH is positioned not only as a cost containment measure, but as a transformational opportunity to modernize and optimize administrative processes. The functions to be initially transferred to the hub relate to transactional functions in finance, human resources, procurement, and operational budgeting. The Shared Services Initiative entered its implementation phase in July of 2025. Since then, several important steps have been completed. These include the launch of the external vendor procurement process, the appointment of the Shared Services Hub coordinator, the undertaking of necessary personnel actions, and the integration of the hub into the 2026-2027 corporate planning process for PAHO. In addition, contingency measures have been established to ensure operational continuity, and change management approaches are being implemented to support a smooth transition. Throughout this project, the Bureau is providing support to affected staff. The hub is expected to operate initially with a ceiling of 50 personnel. We will seek process optimization over time and automate where possible. This estimate is based on the number of occupied and vacant posts in PAHO headquarters that are scheduled for abolishment as functions are transferred. These functions will be reestablished through an outsourced service provider. However, the hub coordinator position is a PAHO staff position and has been filled through reassignment of an existing PAHO staff member. With respect to financial implications, the establishment of the hub is expected to involve upfront costs of approximately $6 million. Most of these costs relate to organizational liabilities associated with personnel whose positions are scheduled for abolishment. Despite these initial costs, estimates indicate that once the functions are fully transitioned, overall savings are anticipated within less than 3 years. The projected savings are calculated by comparing the baseline headquarters scenario with projected headquarters costs after the hub is established, together with the estimated operating costs of the hub itself. Finally, I note that there have been delays in selecting the external vendor for this project. Operational plans for 26-27 included financial contingencies to accommodate such delays, and the project is still well within budget. Despite the delay, it remains expected that the hub will open by the third quarter of 2026. The location determination is dependent on the vendor selected and thus is also delayed. The one slide that I am about to share with you provides an overview of the timeline for this year, and I'll briefly walk you through it if I can. Yes, there we go. So here we cover the 4 quarters of 2026. You have little orange stars indicating critical milestones in the project. In blue, you have events related to the personnel for the new SSH, or Shared Service Hub, and in orange, the related transfer of business processes. We are, of course, now approaching the end of Q1 2026. We are, as I mentioned, in the process of selecting the external vendor. We hope to have that process completed within the near future. Thus, you see the star that says vendor selected in Q2. So we're looking for that by the mid to end of April, hopefully. Next, within, let's say, a short period after that, we hope to have the location finalized and indeed the doors open. Doors open doesn't mean that everyone's on board, but it means we are at least starting to bring on board the personnel of the new service hub. At the same time, you see the blue line there that says personnel recruited for the service hub, onboarded and trained. This is, of course, not instantaneous, but takes some time as well. So that is why you have the blue line running up until the end or close to the end of Q3 for 2026. This blue line also coincides with the transition period, which is an overlap between the existing capacity for these administrative functions in PAHO's headquarters office and the standing up of those functions in the new shared service hub, which again we expect to run through the end of Q3. As of Q4, as per our current projections, the shared service hub should be fully functional with the processes that are currently in scope. There may, of course, be room for additional functions to be incorporated in the future, but right now we are dealing with a certain discrete number of functions that we are moving. Therefore, the Shared Service Initiative project is scheduled to end as of the end of 2026, once that hub is up and live. So with that, the subcommittee is invited to take note of this document and provide any comments that it deems pertinent. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Cambliss, for your presentation. So the question has been asked that whether or not you have any interventions that you wish to make at this stage. And the chair does recognize Canada. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Canada thanks the Secretariat for the update on the establishment of a shared services hub. As the organization advances its efforts to enhance administrative efficiency and effectiveness, we continue to urge the Secretariat to carefully assess and manage implications for PAHO staff and for the organization's overall operations. In this regard, we appreciate the development of contingency measures and the implementation of change management approaches. We would welcome more information about measures being taken to mitigate any potential operational and reputational risks associated with the transfer of functions to external partners, and what tools the Secretariat will retain for governance and oversight. For example, what vetting process is being used for the hub vendor, and will internal control and oversight processes apply to the hub and its activities? Thank you.
Thank you for your observations and questions that will be dealt with in response shortly. Do we have any other comments? If we do not have any other interventions, I'd now ask Mr. Kamlis to respond to Canada's observation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Canada, for the questions. We are indeed, we have been, I would say, it's fair to say, extremely careful in terms of the implications, particularly as regards to existing PAHO staff members. The question of continuity, of course, is critical. These are not, of course, our public health functions that we're talking about. They are administrative functions which support the public health functions, but are nonetheless essential for those public health functions. So there are various measures that are being taken by the affected departments in terms of the contingency period, in terms of short-term staffing, in terms of looking at contract extensions, etc. So I believe that we are being rigorous in that respect, and certainly can provide an update on that to the Executive Committee in June of this year. In terms of the governance and oversight, we do have an internal governance structure for this project, which of course reports eventually up to our director. And I would clarify that most certainly, although it will be an external vendor with whom we are working in the Shared Services Hub, all of the internal controls and oversight processes will, of course, apply to this operation. I would note, of course, this is not the first time that PAHO has outsourcing of functions. We outsource a number of functions already. What is different, I would say, is the scope of this outsourcing in terms of its covering various administrative functions at once. But it's, of course, not the first time that we work with external vendors to implement our operations. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
And thank you, Mr. Kamlis. We do appreciate your response. So this brings us to say to you that all of these questions, observations, comments will now find itself in the final report. And we now move to the next agenda item 5.1, that treats with draft provisional agenda for the 178th session of the Executive Committee. I would like to then draw your attention to SPBA 20 INF 1 and ask Mr. Nicholas Lagomasino, Senior Advisor of the Office of Governing Bodies of the Pan American Sanitary Bureau, to present. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Mr. President, Mr. Director, esteemed delegates, it's an honor to present for the Subcommittee on Program, Budget and Administration the consideration of provisional agenda for the 178th meeting of the Executive Committee to take place in June 2026. The provisional agenda is based on the list of topics reviewed in October by the Executive Committee at its 177th session. And it includes the usual items having to do with the regulations, rules of procedure, administrative and staff matters, as well as elements having to do with the Executive Committee. Furthermore, in response to a request by member states at that past section of the Executive Committee, certain items were eliminated in order to improve governance of the organization. As part of these efforts and along those lines, this version before you, it has eliminated another report or one of the sub-regional integration organizations. As to matters having to do with program policy, the agenda includes a strategy to strengthen risk and health emergency strategies in favor of health management. Another strategy for the prevention and control of arboviral diseases, strategy and plan of action on food safety, a plan of action on resistance to antimicrobials, and a policy to strengthen and harmonize revolving and regional funds, and a preliminary report on the assessment of the program budget 2024-2025 and the strategic plan 2026 that was presented is the outline of this session. The agenda also includes a number of progress and final reports, which reflects our permanent commitment to follow up and implement the existing mandates of the governing bodies of PAHO. To conclude, I'd like to draw attention to point 2.3, the draft provisional agenda of the 63rd Directing Council of PAHO, and item 2.4, draft provisional agenda of the 78th session of the Regional Committee of WHO for the Americas. This year, we will begin presenting the topics in two independent agendas. This concludes my presentation to the subcommittee, and I'm available to answer any questions member states may have for me. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lago Marcino, for your presentation. I now ask members if they have any contribution that they wish to make. The chair recognizes Canada.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just on the separation of the draft provisional agenda of the Directing Council and the 78th session of the Regional Committee of WHO, we were just wondering if the Secretariat could provide more information on how agenda items will be divided between these two bodies, including any key considerations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Canada, for that observation. You'll get a response shortly. The chair recognizes United States of America. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, for welcoming comments from the United States on all these important issues. For one final comment, as we have repeatedly stated elsewhere, the United States has concerns with approaches that entail language evolving from DEI or gender ideology, including those that connect strategies, actions, or outcomes with ethnicity or race, in addition to our expressed rejection of any alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals, which impinge upon state sovereignty as a soft form of global governance. We will continue to focus on these stated concerns and will review the papers for the upcoming Executive Committee, and we feel confident we will receive the papers 6 weeks in advance of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, United States, and yes, we commit to honoring our pledge, so that will happen. All right, so other matters, this brings us to item 6. Oh, sorry, yeah. I neglected to ask Mr. Lago Marcino to respond. So now I have him to respond to the observations and questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And to Canada, thank you for your question. We will provide more details on the separation of the agendas as we come to the period to provide the agenda for the Executive Committee. And thank you, United States. We will do our best effort to publish documents. At least some. We will do our best effort to have some information comes along. But we take your comments and we will work towards that. Thank you very much for all support. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. Lagomasino. I now ask Dr. Barbosa if he has any comments on the agenda. Thanks.
No, very briefly, I think that thank you, Canada, for raising this topic. It's a complex topic, so the idea is that we will have a proposal that we will present to the member states before the Executive Committee. So in the Executive Committee, we have a proposal how we can have recognizing the current situation that we have related to our membership, so how we can handle the two meetings that used to be the same meeting that now we'll need to have them in a separate way. So we will present a proposal that every member state will be comfortable to participate in the meetings. Thank you for your question.
Well, thank you, Dr. Barbosa. I would like to inform the subcommittee that the discussions will be reflected in the final report. And now, draw your attention to item 6, other matters. Director, are there any other matters that you wish to bring to the attention of the subcommittee? Oh, sorry, I noticed Canada. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a minor thing, just recognizing the critical importance of the election process for the position of the director and the need to ensure we're taking a considered approach to the proposed amendments to the rules governing this process. We're kindly requesting the Secretariat to undertake further member state consultations ahead of EC. Thank you.
Good observation. Thank you. All right, Dr. Barbosa, please.
No, I don't have any other.
Okay. Right. So there's nothing from Dr. Barbosa. So I would ask the members if you have any other matter that you wish to bring to the attention of the chair, or if you wish to make any comment as we prepare to wrap up. This is the opportunity for you to comment. Thanks. The chair recognizes Mexico.
Thank you, President. In a very few words, Mexico has 3 recognitions to make. First, to you, sir, and we're very grateful for your efficient discharge of work, which has even allowed us to finalize or end at an earlier time. Second, thanks and recognition to Dr. Jarbas Barbosa for his leadership of the organization. He has shown that topic through topic, he's very clear, open to discussion with member states. He's committed with accountability, something that my delegation much appreciates, because it is very important to ensure transparency in the view of Mexico. Plus, Dr. Barbosa's understanding of the organization and given the complex international context that requires legitimate, effective multilateralism that focuses on the needs of our countries. And third, as a conclusion, I'd like to recognize all the staff of this personnel that through these sessions have shown and displayed their professionalism and devotion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mexico, for your good for your kind words. Thank you so much for your kind words and your expressions of goodwill. We do appreciate it. And do we have any other person who wish to make any comments? If we do not have any other person, I will make So there are no other comments, so I would ask Dr. Barbosa to make his closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief, because when you are the last barrier between people and their lunch, I think that you need to be careful with the time that you are taking. But I think that is important for me to say, on behalf of the Secretariat, or the Secretariat, how we really appreciate the kindness of the discussion that we have had in this subcommittee on program budget and administration. We covered several essential topics for the organization, from the assessment of the work plan, the strategic plan that we presented, and received several contributions from our member states, and other several specific topics related to the program budget and administration that you presented the very meaningful contributions. I think that we, of course, will take all of them very carefully, because it's the voice of our member states, it's the voice of our owners, of the owners of this organization, that we need to react to them, because they are guiding us how you can, this organization, to be moving forward, to be more efficient, more transparent, more accountable, and to provide the technical cooperation that you deserve and that you require. I want also to thank every member of the subcommittee and also the observers, because they participated actively in the discussion. I think that we had some topics that we didn't have consensus, and this is part of the process. This will be brought to the executive committee meeting for further discussion. We will have time from now until then to discuss. I really appreciate the suggestion, the recommendation from Canada to have a regional consultation on the amendments to the rules governing the election process for the position of director of the Pan American Sanitary Bureau, because I think that this is an important change that we are having after several years, and it's important that every member state is comfortable with the specific language that is there. So I really appreciate your suggestion. And also, I don't think that we will try. We will accomplish with the 6-week period. I think that, thank you, the United States, for this observation. It is really important, this meeting, we had some exception, because in the last years we have accomplished 100% with this period, and this is important, because the countries need time to review. Sometimes it's more than one ministry that is reviewing, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Health. Sometimes there is a need of some consultation, so it's really important, and I am totally committed to ensure you that the 6-week period will fully accomplish for the Executive Committee and the other governing body meetings. So I also want to recognize and to thank our President for his leadership, for keeping us behaving good in this process, respecting the times. I think that it was important for us, Minister, to have a Minister of Grenada as the President of the subcommittee. I think that this also shows how diverse is this organization, representing the region that at the same time is a global leader in public health, and it has a diversity from the countries, the big countries, small countries, islands in the Caribbean, countries in Central America, in South America, Canada, the US, Mexico. I think that is really important that in the leadership of our governing bodies, we also see this diversity reflected. And I really commend you for your leadership and to keep this meeting going so well with all the outcomes that were expected at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barbosa. And I have the opportunity to say the final words. So I wish to firstly thank you, all of you, for electing me as president of SPBA 20. For me, it has been a very good experience, and I really do appreciate the confidence that you have demonstrated allowing me to chair this meeting. And thanks to the Pan American Health Organization for its leadership and for the briefing sessions that we had. That too was fun, and I believe I enjoyed the past 2 days of chairing this meeting. And for us as a small island state, for most of you, you might not know where Grenada is. It's in the West Indies. If you look on the map, you might not see it. It's a little dot above Trinidad. You are likely to see Trinidad. And a little above Guyana also. So Guyana is the new country on the map as far as oil is concerned, oil resources is concerned. So that's where we are located. It's a tourist destination, so if you find yourself feeling a bit too cold, it's hot or warm 24 hours a day, 365 days per year, beautiful beaches, awesome place for hiking. It's a great place to spend a vacation. It is very slow. But things are picking up a bit because our government is really trying to create some investments and create some activities around the country to grow the GDP and so on, and to have our people well educated and so on and so on. So there's a lot happening. And health is the number one item on our agenda in terms of the way forward for the country, because we recognize that if we have to build a strong and resilient nation, healthcare must be priority number one. So health and education are the two main pillars on which we are transforming our country. It's only a population about approximately 120,000 people, so it's very small. And today we have athletics. So the juniors, which is what we call high school, they are wrapping up 3 days of athletics championship. When that happens, the whole of Grenada shuts down. So you could imagine that I want to go take a look at who is going to win. And so that is what it is. It's fun to live in Grenada. But back to the meeting, we want to thank you. I say all of this to say thank you for allowing a small island state like Grenada to be represented at this international forum. And they just given us the opportunity to chair. It's a major milestone for us as a small island state. And when I say this, I speak for many of the other island states and also countries who seek recognition. We want to do well as everybody else. We want to build a strong and resilient nation. And so whatever we can do to make that happen, we will. So being heard is also part of it, and being nice is also part of it. So I want to thank you for being nice to us, and we are in the United States, so thank you, host country United States, for having us. Although the flight into Miami was a bit troubling, but we know you have no control over that. It has to do with global warming and all the other stuff surrounding weather conditions and so on. So we want to thank you for being a good host, and we hope that we can get into the city to do a little shopping if possible. Thank you, and I wish everyone, those of you who traveled in, safe flight back home, and those of you who will remain, we wish you continued health, strength, and prosperity. Thank you, and blessings to all of you.